Well, a very good Saturday evening to you, YouTubers. This is Voice of the Composer. Welcome back to my video series. This is where we keep it raw, we keep it real, talked about what it's like to write music as an amateur composer. This video is going to be somewhat on the fly, so please bear with me. It's not going to be polished by any means, but I think it's the message that's most important. Of course, if you like the series, click that like button, subscribe. You can hit me up on Instagram at #JasonComposes. Leave comments below. I did a video last week about this COVID-19 or coronavirus, whatever you want to call it. Folks, I got to tell you something. There is something really wrong in this country when cities are being shut down. People are being put on lockdown. They can't leave their homes. People can't travel. You know, I went out today to go get some groceries, and there was nobody on the streets. I'm sorry, folks, but that's not acceptable. We are Americans, and we believe in the freedom of religion and of speech, the freedom of movement, and definitely economic freedom in capitalism. And we need to be championing those values. That's what makes us American. And you as an artist out there, composer, what have you, you know this quite well. You don't want to be limited with your speech, with your music. We saw that in World War II with Russia. We saw that with Fidel Castro in Cuba, with the Cuban Revolution in '59. So we don't want to repeat those same mistakes, because if we have a government coming in and telling us that we can't get out of our homes, well, what's the next step? Limiting what we produce as artists? Now, I'm not trying to make a mantra here today, okay, or whatever you want to call it, a statement about artistry. What I'm saying is that as Americans, we need to cherish our freedoms, and that our government should not be coming in and telling us that we can't leave our homes. And we need to stand up and say, no, we're going to leave our homes. No, we're going to go out there and we're going to patronize businesses, and we're going to go about our business as normal. And here, let me tell you why, folks, because we need to gain some perspective with this COVID-19 virus. Yes, it's a serious virus, and you should be doing everything you can to protect yourself and your family. And of course, you want to wash your hands, use sanitizer, take all the precautions necessary. Definitely listen to your local authorities. Do anything you can to keep your neighborhood safe. But at the same token, you should not have to sacrifice your freedoms as an American because of this disease. That is wrong. It goes against everything that we believe in, everything that our ancestors fought for, so that we can have the freedoms that we have today. So let me give you a little bit of perspective here with some stats. Let's talk about smallpox. During the American Revolution, from 1775 to 1776, 3,000 Northern troops, or Northern Army troops, were infected with smallpox. It was an epidemic not only in Europe, but in the colonies as well. And it's said that the mortality rate of that disease is 1 in 3. So you can imagine that a good chunk of soldiers probably died from the smallpox disease. But it didn't stop there, because 1,200 of the Montreal troops also contracted smallpox. From 1778 to 1779, the city of New Orleans faced its smallpox epidemic. And then that would reoccur, even though a vaccine had been available for smallpox in the late 1790s, early 1800s, I believe it was. From 1863 to 1882, you had 6,450 deaths in the city of New Orleans alone from the smallpox virus. But let's talk about the Spanish flu of 1918, 1919. 500 million people contracted Spanish flu. And it said that between 10 to 20%, if we take the median of 15%, that would give us about 75 million people who died from Spanish flu when this thing exploded in 1919. But what about cholera? We never talk about cholera. That was a disease caused by contaminated water, poor sanitation. They didn't have the luxuries that we have today, of course. Well, in 1832, they called it King Cholera, the King Cholera epidemic. 55,000 deaths were reported in the United Kingdom. In the city of London, you had 6,536 deaths from cholera. In the country of France had 100,000 deaths from cholera. 20,000 of those occurred in Paris. So we really need to take a step back and look at our priorities here. And as Patrick Henry once said, or famously said, give me liberty or give me death. Let me tell you something, folks. I was just recently, this past week, I was let go from my job. A staff of 75, 76 people. I worked at a hotel. We did a lot of conferences, that sort of thing. So we got a lot of business. And we only had about maybe 10 rooms a night in-house over the past couple of weeks. It got really bad. In fact, we had people trying to break into the freezers or trying to break into rooms to sleep in the rooms for the night. So this hysteria is causing panic that doesn't need to be there. And like I said, we need to combat this. Now, I'm not saying, once again, don't pay attention to your local authorities or do what you can to protect yourself from this virus. But at the same token, we should not be sacrificing our freedoms as Americans, because that is wrong. It goes against everything our forefathers fought for, and you should be standing up and saying, no, as an American, I'm going to protect the freedom of movement, the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and definitely economic freedom in this country. So thank you for joining me. This is my little 2 cents about this COVID-19 virus. If you like the video, once again, click that like button, subscribe, hit me up on Instagram at #JasonComposes. Leave comments below. This is Voice of the Composer. I'll catch you next time. Have a good night, everybody.